Welcome to Dr. Roger and Friends, the bright side of longevity, hosted by three Ps in a podcast, Doc Roger, Teresa, and Danielle. Thanks for joining us for Coffee and Conversation.
So, one of my favorite quotes is at least attributed often to Einstein, and that is, there are only two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle, and the other is though everything is a miracle. I love that, don't you?
I do. I remember when Dr. Kahn said it at our annual meeting, the Lyceum. That's the first time I had heard it. It is beautiful. Now you, Danielle, you must come out of your skin hearing something like that in a good way.
Oh, I was going to say, the reason why I love that quote so much is Einstein himself was not particularly religious. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, he was an atheist, and yet he had such a reverence for nature, and it was awe-inspired that he still felt that something outside of himself. Even if it wasn't a God, as somebody religious might say, he was deeply spiritual.
Very much so. I think he was in awe of the universe. Carl Sagan, I don't know about his religious affiliation, but he did lots of work on the universe and helped us, and he was a very spiritual person also. Maybe it's inevitable when you look at the vastness of the universe.
Yeah, you can either look at it like we're this tiny speck in the world and don't mean anything, or you can look at it as like, wow, think of everything that had to align in the world, in the universe, to bring us together to be in existence. And that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and we talk about how we're all connected. I remember I did a keynote just recently, and I was surprised to see that we share huge amounts of DNA with trees, with mammals, with apes, and whatever we're composed of, so are plants and everything else. So
and stardust.
We're all connected. And stardust, yeah. But spirituality, now that's kind of a concept that's kind of, someone would say, maybe squishy.
Well, there are a lot of misconceptions about it, right? When people say spiritual, sometimes they go right to religion, which is one path. But I think it can be a complementary path, that there are not only other ways, but combinations of things that we can do.
It is truly different for every single person. And I think that's good.
Oh, I think it's very good. But I think it requires that someone, if they're truly going to understand spirituality, understand that this person sitting across from them may have a totally different view, and it's not my way or the highway. I mean, I think it's about tolerance of others' views of what spirituality is.
Yeah. So I'm curious, Roger, how would you define spirituality for yourself?
I don't know about defining it, but what it means to me is, I think it's this interconnectedness of us with everything. Creatures and plants, the earth, the universe, and I'll stop there. That's what overwhelms me. There's lots of other things that make me think of that and make me feel part of something a lot bigger than myself, and I like to practice it on a practical level with finding my purpose and meaning and helping others and working for the common good and those sort of things. So that's me. Teresa, how about you?
Mine, I do seek, I guess, spirituality through religion. And that is an important path for me, but it's not the only way. It's part of it. But another big part of it is being out in nature. That does it for me. And if there's anything I've learned in the past few years about myself, it's that quiet and solitude, that's really where I find it. Those are big ingredients for me to feel, I guess, like my spiritual batteries are charged up.
I've known you a long time, Teresa, and I noticed an additional light. There are lots of lights within you, but an additional light when you planted all those almond trees. So for me, who's the interconnectedness of everything. I mean, I don't know. That's work, I'm sure, and it's something that happens around you and where you live. But I don't know. I have a feeling that was kind of special for you.
It is so special. And I will run out on my lunch and just walk and sort of weave my way in between the rows. And it does recharge my batteries in a spiritual way. So I guess I'm a mix of ways.
I think as we all are. Well, let's talk to the guru here, the spiritual advisor amongst us.
Well, I think we're all equally spiritual. So, but my take on it, I feel like it's twofold. I believe that it's your individual search for meaning and purpose, and which is a very personal thing that nobody has to understand but you. And I feel like the second component is how we relate to one another, to nature, and to whatever that divine source is, whether you call it God or universe or physics or whatever it means to you, that's something greater outside yourself. So it's your individual journey, and it's the journey you take with everyone around you.
That's a beautiful thing. Well, aren't we the spiritual ones? But so is everybody in some way. Maybe we just don't think about it enough, or take the time to be present, because I really think you have to be present to fully appreciate spirituality.
We don't. We're overscheduled. We're over busy. We're overstressed. We're over so many things. Overweight. We could just keep going. And I think those are symptoms of not focusing on our spiritual selves and getting those spiritual batteries recharged.
I've heard people say they seek it in music, or as you with nature. They seek it with children or with animals. We know that someone with a dog, their blood pressure is down, their stress level's down, their cortisol level is down. But it's just such a wide topic, but it's so important.
Here's the interesting thing about what you just said. When you're spiritual, the health benefits, no matter what path you take, are the same, whether it's religion, whether it's spending time in nature, spending time with animals, volunteering, meditating, and being mindful. The benefits: lower blood pressure, better cardio health, better memory, creativity. When you can find it in music, it has the same resonance as the other things you mentioned. All the health benefits are the same. So it doesn't matter if we all find it a different way.
Well, this brings up the many people define spirituality. Those, in fact, who make it their career to talk about it and to propagate it. Many people call it the quest, and I think the important part of that is that it dispels any idea that we have that it's a destination. I mean, it is a place where we want to be, but that's being present, and that can happen anytime. It's not a particular geographic or financial or whatever destination. I think it's the appreciation and realizing you're seeking it, and you do find it in multiple different ways, just like the three of us.
And I think as you grow and evolve, it takes on new definitions. And today's you can't probably appreciate spirituality in a different way, in a deeper way than the 10 years ago version of you. And that's a good thing.
A story coming, warning, red light.
No way.
Story.
You're kidding.
So one of my Air Force assignments was to a big spy base, and we had high altitude reconnaissance airplanes. So we had SR-71s and U-2s. And I got a flight in a U-2, which goes very high. And I just began to see the curvature of the earth and the dark indigo sky, and I got to say it was an extremely moving experience. I'm in a pressure suit and everything, so you're in kind of an artificial environment, but to see that was just awesome. So that was a moment of a different type of spirituality when I was younger, but I've never forgotten it. So. But I believe totally you're correct that it is. I know that in my many decades it has evolved significantly, but with a common thread of, for me, presence. Being in the present, being not with a racing mind or chattering mind or with technology or something distracting me, but it is being here in this moment and appreciate whatever it is. I had a friend who was a prisoner in Vietnam for 7 years and was in solitary a lot. And he was able to stay healthy, optimistic, and to make it through where many didn't, because he projected himself somewhere else, but oddly enough, he was present in that other place, not so much present in the horrid part of where he was. And then occasionally he was present with his buddy the cockroach, who he named, and and they were friends.
That makes me think of Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, where he's, of course, in a concentration camp. People are dying all around him, and yet they're starving, and they could stop and appreciate the beauty of a sunset.
I think that's where it's at. I think it's, life isn't always going to be good to you. It's not always going to be pretty. You're not going to see indigo skies or almond trees or whatever all the time, and but yet you still can be very spiritual to really charge your batteries.
Another misconception about spirituality, when people find it and they have that rush of like everything is great in the world and they're super happy and they want to stay that way forever. And those who are deeply spiritual realize you're not going to stay in that state. And so when things are in flux, spirituality helps keep your whole core in check. And I think that misconception is when you find it that you're going to be just in that joyous, but it's recognizing you're going to have situations that are going to require some resilience.
Dr. Kahn, I think it was, that said he wrote the book on successful aging, and if he wrote another chapter, it would be on spirituality. And at first, I kind of scratched my head. I said, that's a little squishy, because I had a misconception of what it is. But to me, it is an absolute necessity. It's one of the major 4 components, along with physical, social, and intellectual. And so I guess like everything else, we know it's there. We know it's a part of our lifestyle, and that we have to believe that it is something we can do and we can grow into it. And maybe you can't get right into it, but let's use Kaizen to just experience a little bit of presence, a little bit of spirituality every day.
That's right. No matter our circumstances, try to see the miracles in this moment.
So what's our takeaway in all this?
So what we're saying, I think, is find what brings you purpose or peace or meaning to your life. Think about the connection to other living things and tolerance of other things, and find connection to something greater than ourselves.
Exactly. Beautifully said.
Hi. We hope this podcast is a source of inspiration. If you're ready to dive deeper into these concepts and really apply them in your life, join us over at Master Life. You'll have a personalized experience and lots of support to create your own long, bright future. mymasterlife.com